Hi, this is Jim Lange. In our last video, I promised that in this video, I would reveal what we call the secret. And this is the secret to understanding IRAs and Roth IRAs. And if you get this, which I hope you will, in the next, say, 10 minutes or something like that, you will be ahead of certainly the majority of attorneys who don't get this, even after you explain it to them. You'll be ahead of most financial advisors, and the people who probably get this the best are the CPAs, and even sometimes the engineers take this, go to this or find this a little bit easier. But this is really important concept. So what I need you to do to understand the secret is to change the paradigm of how we value money or how we measure money. So let's say that John has $1 million in his IRA, all right? And let's say Jim has $900,000 outside his IRA in a brokerage account. And let's, for discussion's sake, let's assume it's highly appreciated so that there's no capital gains. But we're just going to try to keep it simple. So clearly, measured in total dollars, which is the way we usually measure wealth, John, who has $1 million, even though it's in an IRA, has more money than Jim, who has $900,000 outside his IRA, right? So we would all agree that using the traditional measurement of money, which is whoever has the most money wins, John has more money than Jim, okay? But if John has to go out and buy something, or he wants to spend some of his money, or even when he's 70, he has to take some of his money out, he's going to have to pay income taxes on whatever he withdraws from the IRA. So let's oversimplify. Let's say he wanted to buy something that cost about $600,000. Well, the taxes on him withdrawing his IRA might be in the ballpark of $400,000. So even though he has $1 million IRA, in terms of current purchasing power, he only has $600,000. And I'm more interested in purchasing power than total dollars. Now Jim, on the other hand, he's already paid income taxes on his $900,000, so he can buy the $600,000 asset, and he has $300,000 left over. All right? So even though he has less money based on what I would call total dollars, he has more money in terms, or more purchasing power. So what I need you to do is to have a new paradigm for the measurement of money, and that's going to be purchasing power, okay? That's going to be what we are going to judge our results on, is how can we get the most purchasing power, and that's going to be one of the keys to unlocking the secret of the Roth IRA treasure. Okay, so let's go back to two people, all right? We'll do John and Jim. Let's say John and Jim each have $100,000 in a plain old traditional IRA, okay? They also each have $25,000 outside the IRA. So we would all agree that measured in total dollars, they have $125,000 total. But remember, we want to use purchasing power as our measurement tool. So in order for either of them to go out and buy something, they're going to have to cash in their IRA. Let's assume a flat income tax rate of 25%, and I know that that's not quite realistic, but let's assume that is the rate anyway. So John takes his $100,000 IRA, cashes it in, and let's say at 25%, there would be a $25,000 tax that he would have to subtract from his $125,000 total portfolio, and he would be left with $100,000, which is the purchasing power of the $125,000. So let's say Jim has the same thing, he would have the same $100,000. But let's say Jim is going to say, hey, I want to make a Roth IRA conversion. So he fills out the appropriate paperwork, And let's assume that the money's in Schwab or Vanguard or wherever it might be, and they send him a 1099 that in effect says, please add an extra $100,000 to your income. And again, we're assuming a flat income tax rate of 25%. I know that that's not really an accurate assumption in the real world, but I'm just trying to show a concept here. So now he has $100,000 in a Roth, but he has a tax bill of $25,000. Well, in my example, I conveniently have him start with $25,000 of money from outside his IRA. So he pays that to the IRS, and what you see is his total dollars now is $100,000 compared to John, whose total dollars is $125,000. But remember, we're not measuring in total dollars, we are measuring in purchasing power. So let's say that Jim wants to go and spend his $100,000. Then what would happen is he wouldn't have to pay the tax because it's a Roth IRA. So he could go out and spend $100,000. By the way, that is the same as John. This is a critical point. Measured in purchasing power, the break-even time using certain assumptions is not 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. It is day one. All right? So many financial writers will say, hey, Roth IRAs are not good for young people. I'm sorry, not good for old people because the older person takes so long to make up for the tax-free growth in the Roth. But that's because they're measuring in total dollars. So they might say that Roth IRA conversions are good for young people, but not for older people. Now, in my example, does it matter if John or Jim are 20 years old, 40 years old, 60 years old, 80 years old, 100 years old? No, in each one of these, on day one, using these assumptions, they break even. That is critical to understand. And there's all these Roth calculators out there, and in my opinion, with all due respect, most of them are wrong because they have the wrong measurement tool. They are measuring total dollars, and if you measure total dollars, you end up with a much different result than if you use purchasing power as your measurement tool, which is what I would like you to do. So what we're going to do in the next video is we are going to present peer-reviewed analysis that shows what happens if John doesn't make a Roth conversion. He has the $100,000 out in the IRA that's growing income tax deferred. He has the $25,000 that is growing taxable, because remember, that's after-tax dollars. And then we're going to run that through for 20 years, and then even after he dies, and even after, even if it goes to his grandkids. And we're going to compare that using the same variables, same interest rates, same investments, same tax rates, blah, 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 to Jim, who did the $100,000 conversion. Well, who do you think is going to do better in the long run? Jim, who only has $100,000 total, but everything that he has is growing income tax-free, versus John, who has an extra $25,000, but the IRA that he has is growing tax deferred, meaning someday he will have to pay, or his heirs will have to pay tax, and he's paying taxes every year on the interest, dividends, and capital gains of this $25,000. Who do you think is going to do better? John, who we'll call Mr. Status Quo, or Jim, who we will call Mr. Roth IRA conversion? I would highly encourage you to go to the next video and find the answer. Thank you.